Welcome to the Trend Detection Podcast, powered by Siemens. And now your host, Niall Sullivan.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Trend Detection Podcast. I'm really pleased to be joined once again by Peter Schopf, who many of you will recognise from previous episodes. We've had this sort of recurring series titled IoT Time over the past few months, even years maybe. So we've been checking in on Peter's progress, running his own company, and he's speaking to lots of great organisations about their digital transformation strategy. So it's a completely open agenda. We're going to dive into a few different places, and I'm sure it'll be interesting to everyone listening. But I'll hand over to you, Peter, just to sort of briefly reintroduce yourself to the audience, I guess, before we get started.
For sure. No, thanks for having me back on. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and lots of fun. And yeah, it's been interesting also to reflect on the past episodes and how kind of my journey progressed throughout, because each time I had kind of different topics on the top of my head and talking about those. But yeah, like what and have I experienced in my past? I've been with Siemens for a long time, 15 years, I believe, in many different areas. And especially also in terms of innovation, in terms of IoT, MindSphere back in the days, which is now has progressed kind of in the accelerator and topics around that Insights Hub. And also things around augmented reality and how this can be playing a role in the future of industries. So lots of interesting areas. And then I'm currently doing still my PhD. It's the final months, hopefully, but it's still ongoing. Something which I started while I was with Siemens, and it's quite a challenge to do at the site as a kind of a hobby project. And now having this company of mine, this network approach, focusing on digital transformation and AI, it's really interesting to have all of those different aspects which are brand new. So I'm really keen about those things. So I'm also looking forward to some speeches I will do about the topic, some speeches I did in the past, and that's always something I like to do a lot. And therefore, happy to talk about those topics.
Oh, excellent. So I guess, and I can't remember exactly on top of it when we last spoke, but I guess, so where are you now from where we were before? What's sort of been going on in your world? What's been your focuses, let's say?
Yeah, so as I left Siemens, I thought, okay, I've learned so much about digital transformation as such, about good things and bad things, that I can help companies progress in that area. And that was kind of a general approach, maybe a little bit too generic. Yeah? And on the meantime, I studied more and more topics around artificial intelligence. And this general topic, and also what I was looking forward to help small and medium businesses, especially as medium-sized businesses, because large corporations, they have all these high-class consultancies they pay because they are kind of already in place and they have kind of stable contracts with them. And I thought, okay, medium-sized businesses, I can help. I can really push forward and do more than just consulting, really take them on the hand and lead them through with implementation partners. Therefore, this network approach. But I realized that I don't have such a strong network in those medium-sized companies. And they are, especially in Germany, kind of still reluctant to actually do something on digital transformation. It's very specific aspects and parts what they do. And for how it progressed for me, that I'm now back in discussions with large corporations, actually. So that was interesting for me. I didn't expect that to be so easy, actually, that I can still tell large corporations what they could do and how they could do things. And so those are really interesting discussions. And I sharpened my offering to the market to make that clear. Like not, hey, I take you on the hand and lead you through a digital transformation and tailor to yourself, but rather kind of to have puzzle pieces. So I created a puzzle, which I showed them. And these puzzle pieces are each kind of how you start with generative AI. And they're kind of interconnected. So that was kind of what I came up with. And some of those puzzle pieces are quite interesting, I think, because they, different approach and more specifics. And well, I think they bring a lot of value. Therefore, I like to also explain that, of course, currently in my discussions.
You mentioned that at the start, Peter, that like a reluctance to look towards digital transformation. Maybe you could sort of talk about that a little bit more, just to sort of set the scene a little bit.
Yeah, it's within these companies, it's very often like that. Either it's the C-level that understands there's the need of digital transformation and they want to do something, but then it's difficult to convince their people and really lead them along. Yeah? And therefore, even if they do some kind of initiatives, they very often fall short on expectations because it's not the organization as such, the entire organization who drives it. And especially kind of the middle management is sometimes really a challenge to either bring them along on the journey which the C-level has in mind, or if it's on the other hand, the employees who are innovative and want to drive change, it's difficult kind of to go through the middle management and kind of connect to the top management to have a joint approach to digitalization. So if it's then somebody on the working level, they're very creative, but they lack funding, they lack then purpose and support by the overall organization. And this disconnect very often an issue. And then also resources, of course. Yeah, if everything is running very well, then they are very busy because it's running well. And now kind of things are changing a little bit again, unfortunately. And very often business is not running very well. And then it's more firefighting and they have issues. Yeah, so somehow the priorities are not so much on innovation. So what I've experienced, it's they like especially German mid-sized companies, they're very innovative around their product because they are market leaders, very often hidden champions, we call many of them, about their product because it's very innovative and special and high quality, but they're not so very innovative around processes. And currently where AI comes in, for example, is a lot on the processes side, to streamline and make processes more efficient. And therefore, it's just, I hope to change it. Yeah, the upcoming speeches I have are directed towards mid-sized companies, but let's see. My current experiences are not so good in that context.
And because you mentioned these sort of puzzle pieces, obviously putting together, so to help customers. What is that where the idea came from? Is these kind of sort of barriers or experiences you'd faced before?
Absolutely, absolutely. Actually, if you say it's so, because on this puzzle, I have two entry points, basically, one at the top, one at the bottom. So that relates very nicely to what I've just said, actually, that when you enter in the top of my puzzle, there's basically this vision setting, these target pictures kind of providing a way forward. Or you can go at the bottom of my puzzle, which is basically the groundwork where people get informed about what is AI and how they use it in their daily work. So kind of this bottom-up and top-down approach, which is nicely related to the different puzzle pieces depending on where you start. And what could be interesting to talk about a little bit, I think, is from the top down. Yeah, bottom up is also interesting, but let's take it top down, for example. This vision setting, that's really what I've realized also from the past. When you do not have a clear picture of what will happen the next years and where do you want to go, then it's very challenging to start digital transformation because every single project will be scrutinized in terms of, but when is the ROI happening? What do you want to achieve very specifically? And you always prioritize product-related innovations compared to others because it's not so clear. And very often, for example, in IoT, we talked about that in one of our previous sessions. You first need to do the plumbing, basically, the connecting and get the data, and then you build a lot of use cases on top of that. But if you have only one use case in mind and you need to do the plumbing, the collecting the data, it will never really pay off in terms of an ROI perspective. Does it pay in 1 year or in 2 years? That will not work. So you need kind of this vision setting, this looking into the future, 3 to 5 years, and really understand where do you want to be there to then start that journey and see that as a strategic priority. And what happened is that these visions normally are never specific enough. That was my experience. All companies have kind of this vision, strategy, and they break it down to OKRs and things like that. But to have kind of these pictures, very often they're too generic. We want to be first in our market, or we want to be the best customer partner in that area or something like that. And so what I said, I kind of sat down, I looked in all kinds of also papers and management reviews and all these frameworks and models. And I didn't really find something which really breaks it down. So I tried to come up with something myself. And actually, it turned out I used AI for sure, also for benchmarking and for idea generation. And it turned out that the areas that I identified all started with a P. And incidentally, so I came up with 7 Ps with how we could start breaking that down more specifically. Because for sure, let's just run them through quickly. You need to understand, how does your product look like in the future? One topic. How should your people behave in the future? Your processes, your production, and so on and so forth. And so if you want, I mean, we can just together explore these 7 Ps and make some examples for how could this look in the future on a generic basis. Obviously, you need to adopt it to the companies.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, where would you like to start? I'll give you the lead. Which one do you see one as more important than the other, or do they all sort of, help support each other? I guess is one not more important than the other.
Yeah, and they kind of interrelate. Let's, for example, start with the product. I had this the other day. I was having a keynote with Siemens Healthineers. That was really cool engagement because there were all these Siemens experts, technology experts. It was a key expert conference, and I was invited to talk about artificial intelligence to the key experts of Siemens Healthineers who are experts in artificial intelligence. So quite an interesting setting. But they've been mainly experts in the classical AI section. Yeah, I mean, they do all these breast cancer identification things. So they have dedicated models they trained. And this generative approach, I believe, is still quite new to also those experts. And so I challenged them on these 7 Ps, to give them also kind of impulses and challenges to what could change for them. And while I started with the purpose, they have a very dedicated and clear purpose, so that is very cool. I also said maybe I'd make it a 6P framework and leave the purpose out, or I do 7P framework. And they approached me afterwards and said, no, you should and need to have the purpose inside. Yeah, so each company needs a purpose and how that looks in the future. And I think that's indeed interesting because I believe the purpose of many companies will shift if you look into the future. For example, machinery companies. Currently, their purpose might be to build the best and high quality machinery for a specific area. A purpose, how this could translate into the future, would be to really be a solution provider around a specific problem that the customer has. Yeah, and this entails a lot of things. Like, for example, if you then go to product, for example, as the next topic, that you offer your product not as a machine, as a one-time investment, but rather as a service offering, the outcome as a service, X as a service, how that is called. Yeah? So this goes, if you have that purpose in mind to solve the problem of your customer, you might offer it as a service that you are then taking care of the availability of your machine, that it works to the best of its capabilities within the setting of the customer. As it's more that you develop from, hey, I sell investment opportunities into I join your operational expenditure, but make you as successful as possible, dear customer. So that could be a purpose how it develops. And this has a lot of implication for the other piece, for product. We talked about that quickly. And what I challenge, for example, in this Siemens Healthineers keynote is that products that are more complex in the future should be able to talk. As a very specific vision setting, this because these, for example, magnetic tomography devices, very complex machines that they have in a hospital setting. On the one hand side, it's challenging to do the maintenance. So this is something where the machine could explain to maintenance technicians, hey, this is how I'm currently feeling, kind of feeling in terms of my data, my monitoring data tell me this and that. And this is how you can improve it because you need to exchange this part. But also when you have the patient inside and there's maybe some finding around the patient which is special, then you could imagine your machines being interconnected and giving the advice to the doctors in terms of, hey, in Brazil, there was a patient which had exactly the same setting, and the doctors there already came up with that solution or something like that. Yeah? So kind of this engagement with complex machinery could be the same in factories. And this talking is not difficult. Yeah? It's actually, and funny enough, Siemens Healthineers is already working on that in some aspects, which we found out later. One of the innovation projects they have, and that's quite interesting to go into and to think into that direction.
Exactly. And I mean, that's a great example of sort of product innovation. Does it always start with the product then? This process, it has to be at the central point of all of these P's, let's say.
It is, and it has to be, but it doesn't need to be the starting point as such. Yeah, because you can think of those things also quite independently. At some point, they interconnect depending on how detailed you want to do it. Yeah, but for example, processes. Your processes can be very, as I said, independent of your product, because these medium-sized companies, they are very strong on product innovation, but not so much on process innovation. And process innovation, for just on a generic level, if you think about the future of how you should manage your processes as a company, I believe there are two main buckets where you can put your processes. One bucket would be automation. And there are so many processes. Siemens is very good in processes, but there's so many of them which partially take a lot of time. And some processes, like verifying the credibility of your customers or something, they should be automated. It should be a click of a button, and all the processes behind should be done, and not how it's very often done, a very cumbersome process with many people being involved. There's enough data out there to do that automatically, as one of the examples. And on the other hand, I believe that those processes that cannot be automated because people need to be involved, you should give the people more freedom, more rights to, and more empowerment, basically. And AI can help there as well, because it can, it's a little bit more complex process, but we talked about that in one of our last sessions, this personalized AI, that you define principles and rules which are then dedicated to your environment, dedicated to your issues, and you basically give principle-based decision support. That's kind of one of the other puzzle pieces of mine, these principle-based decision support, a very specific topic, an interesting topic with huge potential, but I believe many companies are not there yet to think about that. Still, it's I think quite interesting when you look 3 to 5 years into the future, that how you empower your people, because it's also, many people are afraid of AI, that they get rid of their jobs, but or lose their job because of AI. But AI can, on the contrary, enable people to have more empowerment, being more flexible, because it can be kind of this coach. And as long as AI says, yeah, well, this is okay, that setting you can decide yourself, that people can just be more free and better empowered.
And the mention of AI, it's all about, and you gave a really good example there of certain tasks that can be done if you've got the data there. But how dependent is sort of the use of AI technology on having existing data? There's probably something we've talked about in the past about in an industrial setting about shop floors collecting lots of data and not knowing sort of what to do next with it. But is that the case? Do you need a lot of data to sort of get started with some of these initiatives?
That's the big difference between this classical AI, where you need a lot of data to start, because otherwise it doesn't work at all, and generative AI, where you have these pre-trained models, pre-trained transformer models, GPT, which have a lot of knowledge in their stomach already. They come fully loaded with knowledge, and therefore it's very easy to start with generative AI, depending on the setting, of course, and on the use cases. But this is a big difference, and I think this has not yet been very clear to many, that you need to differentiate very clearly between classical AI, where you train your own algorithms with specific data for a specific use case, and generative AI, which is very general as well. And therefore, I think especially kind of in this process automation space or enablement space, there you can do a lot with not much data. But then, of course, generative AI can also help you if you have a lot of data, documents, and unstructured data, as you say. Then it can help you to handle that data, to really analyze and grab data from those treasure troves, as I would say, because sometimes companies have lots and lots of reports for certain things, but nobody's reading them, like reports for past issues and problems they have and how they fixed it. So this is all there, but nobody can read so much. And therefore, this generative AI can tap into data sources which have not been used in the past because they're not structured. They're structured data being kind of numbers and topics that you are, time series data, for example, and unstructured being text, for example, pictures.
Yeah, I guess it's even to the point where, 'cause when I talk about data, I guess I'm leaning towards like IoT and sensor, and collecting data that way. But like you said, there's a lot of data. And actually, you can take it further. Knowledge, and that's another discussion. I guess there's a lot of knowledge within an organisation, which could be in spreadsheets, it could be handwritten. But now with what we're saying with generative AI, is the idea is that we can take that knowledge and then utilize it, summarize it, and surface it, I guess, for people. That's where we are today.
Exactly. And one of the other piece is people, because people, I think, is a very important aspect as well to address and to think about how should our people of our company, if you make the target picture for our company, for your company, how should they look like, behave like, work like in the future? And I think, again, it needs to be very specific for your company. Or, I mean, these 7 Ps can be on company level, but also on department level. Team level would be a little bit too small. But for example, sales completely works different than engineering and product management and marketing. So these are could be quite different 7 Ps. And the production or the product can be quite different. The product can be, of course, a machine that you sell, but the product of the marketing department would be newsletters, blog posts, and things like that. So it always depends on where you allocate yourself. But for the people, I believe it needs to be said very clearly from companies, hey, this is our expectation towards you. And this is not very often done. That's kind of, some have a more specific culture, others have a more implicit culture. Siemens did that very nicely in another area. They said, you need to own your career. I thought that was a very clear statement towards the employees and expectation setting, that it's not the HR department that owns your career. And you should not wait for the HR department to say at some point in time, oh, we discovered you are a great person and you do a very good job. We move you into your next role and we promote you. It's your own responsibility to think about where you want to go and then to develop your skills and capabilities to be able to get there. And of course, there's a lot of training material available. There's reflection with the management, HR support as well, but the ownership is yourself. And transferring that concept to technology, I think it's very important to tell the people, we expect you to use new tools. We expect you to be innovative because this will be the future. There will be tools, different tools, and AI will play a role. So we expect you to engage and understand. Everybody needs to do it. And if that expectation is not clearly set, people will just not do it. Therefore, just this 1 P as expectation setting. Our picture for the future is that you engage with new technologies. And then you, of course, can also have some things like AI-led learning, that artificial intelligence helps to learn and things like that. But I think this is kind of on a P level, on the people level, also very important aspect.
And I completely understand what you're saying about, pushing technology and saying this is the future. I mean, is that kind of message embraced within organisations? When they're saying, oh, you should be looking ahead and look at this technology and it'll help you with your career. Is that message sort of cutting through?
Yeah, very often I don't think so. And this self-development and also, this is something you need to work on. It's not something that automatically works. It needs to be a constant topic, and that's why I think it's important to have this clear vision setting to to be able to better communicate it to the people, that message, and also to be able to understand, okay, what do we expect? It will be different from company to company, but it needs to be set at some point in time. And I think this is important. That other things, for example, also partner as one of the further piece, is also interesting to think, how do I work with others together, and who needs to do what? It can be that some innovation topics are not part of the company core and that they will be covered by partners. But this should be a clear decision and a conscious decision. And that's very often not the case. It's kind of somehow progressing, somehow developing, but without a clear goal. And when you think it as on a partner ecosystem, what is one aspect I think every partner ecosystem should consider is who owns what kind of data and who would value what kind of data. Yeah? And in terms of, it could be, for example, machinery, that the user of the machinery, the factory that has the machinery, they know best when it breaks down. And which settings are there that there are issues and mistakes, or that it runs really well. So these are data constellations which are very useful for the seller of such a machine, because he could resell those parameters and those settings and that knowledge to other customers of himself. But they often don't own the data. The data is owned then by the ones using it. And therefore, it's very important to discuss in such an ecosystem setting who has what kind of data and who would value the data with also monetary wise. And going forward, to have an exchange platform. And IoT is one of those key topics there, as one of the data sources for machinery, for example. But there are other data sources as well. Customer engagement, how do customers engage with certain products, and how do operators operate certain machines and things like that. So there are many different data sources which are more or less valuable for different players in the ecosystem. And this discussion is, I think, very valuable to have, and to have this future picture of, hey, in the future, in 5 years, we should be able to have your data and you should be able to have our data. And this would improve us as an ecosystem. That's our target picture.
So actually, when we're saying people, because I guess when you first said that, I would automatically think internal stakeholders at various levels. But actually, correct me if I'm wrong, what you're really talking about is people in this ecosystem you're talking about. So partners and consultants, and it's a team effort. And I think that's another topic we've covered before, is the importance of the partner ecosystem. But that's what you're talking about, I guess, Peter, isn't it? It's not people within just say an organization anymore, right?
Yeah, but both, exactly. So that's why I also, in my 7 Ps, people and partner are each one of those. So that means you can look at your people, at your employees independently, and again at your partners independently. And there is a mix, because also your partners need to be innovative and use new tools. And this can also be from how you expect your people to work. This clear message and these clear expectations you can also forward to your partners and say, hey, we are moving, we all need to move. In your ecosystem, you need to work differently and better going forward, because we want to progress together as an ecosystem and as partners. So again, different P, but similar topics as well.
Oh, I see. I jumped ahead to another P, but but you said before, I mean, these topics or these Ps overlap. Certainly, they're not sort of isolated on their own. I guess another thing I wanted to relate to people as well is this idea of, and again, it's within an organisation, but how the impact of knowledge leaving the business. So it's all very well everyone having a strategy and getting behind it and having a role to play, but when someone leaves, I mean, how much is of a disruptor is that? Whether it's someone who's been at the business for many, many years, or it's someone who is maybe newer to the industry, but decides to leave, as a lot of people do now, and change jobs more frequently. What are the sort of challenges around that?
Also, very good point, which could be part of this future vision, that how do you onboard people and how do you let people leave your company? Do you want to stay in touch? I mean, for some companies have alumni programs where they keep contact to the people leaving. For some, like the big consulting companies, that's even a big business, having their consultants leaving in some key positions within other companies and then getting their business back, and making contracts with them and keeping that relationship up. And this is also not done very often on a professional level, and such target pictures could help. And as you say, people leaving is a challenge. Indeed, we do, as one of the puzzle pieces, is kind of coming rather from the bottom up, is a promptathon. A promptathon being a mixture of a prompting, which is requesting an AI for an answer, and hackathon, which people know from the past, coders coming together solving a specific issue. Now, this promptathon, very interesting. I think this will be my kind of bread and butter business, because that every time I talk to stakeholders, they're interested in that. Make some very sizable now trainings. That's very nice, because lots of people, lots of challenges coming all together in one day. So that's really cool. And it has two aspects. It's training on the one hand side, people getting engaged with AI and having this daily use. And on the other side, people solving a specific business problem. And one of the specific business problems is, for example, knowledge retention. It's also knowledge dissipation, kind of how do I distribute knowledge, but also retention, how do I keep knowledge? And now there are different possibilities around that, kind of AI-led interviews with people leaving the company, where you can lead them through different aspects of their work and their experience, and just record it, transcribe it, summarize it by AI. For example, you can connect to wikis, where this knowledge is then retained in a structured manner. And I think going forward, that will be key to retain knowledge, because AI suddenly can manage much more knowledge than we can. And before, it very often was the thinking, okay, I mean, the guy is leaving, but if he would then write it down, nobody would read it, because it's not realistic to be reading all those things. And we anyway have too much data, and people are just overloaded with possibilities of reading things. But now with AI, this changes. You should have the more the better, really, because they can read everything and just summarize you the key outputs of, for example, an experienced person leaving has had so many challenging environments, challenging settings where he found a solution to that if something like this comes back and he has reported around that, then the AI will be able to relate these experiences. So you can first time ever be a real learning organization. And that is one of the challenges we address in these promptathons.
And I really like that idea, because and we both know it's a big discussion point at the moment in the industry about knowledge loss and how to make the most of existing knowledge and surface it. But I haven't thought of that. If someone wanted to leave, or even if someone doesn't want to leave, you could spend time interviewing some of your key stakeholders or key people, interview them, transcribe it, and then you could then feed it into other AI tools to actually like predictive maintenance, for example. You could do it for that particular use case and then use it for other insights. I think that's a great way to capture the knowledge and surface it.
Absolutely. And this also relates to one of the other puzzle pieces, this personalized AI again, where you personalize an AI and you can personalize it around a certain department, company, or person. And also you can kind of have an avatar kind of thing, basically a personalized AI, which is your maintenance technician. And you put in all the knowledge that you have around maintenance from everybody who's leaving and having new challenges or on the go anyway, experienced personnel. And then this AI is trained specifically for certain aspects. And this is anyway how it will be going forward, that it's not going to be one all-powerful AI for the company. It's going to be those agents, specific AIs for specific tasks and topics. And if you find ways to retain knowledge, you should start already, so to retain as much knowledge now as possible, to be able to then have those AIs work at their best and support their best. Because I don't think they will substitute people. And that's obviously always a kind of a discussion to have, but I think they really can help.
And do you think some of these organizations will, in terms of both investing in digital transformation, but do you think companies will invest in building their own Gen AI tools, or look more to sort of vendors to provide that support, or maybe a bit of both? maybe?
Definitely. So it will be a mixture as well there. Yeah? So because some AI tools, again, you probably need state of the art, which can be then also on the cloud. It's not critical data. Then you use something as a SaaS, software as a service. But other data, which is, for example, it's critical and you want to keep it, you can work with open source generative AI models. Yeah, Meta, as the former Facebook company, they provided very, very strong open source models. So there's a lot possible also now with own models, and you don't need to start from scratch. You can use those open source models. And that's very powerful for specific aspects. And going forward, it will be anyway kind of this mixture of experts. You will not have one model only, but you have kind of a question to one model, and the model knows where to route the question so that it goes to the model which is best suited. Because there's some models more creative and better in writing, and other models better in analytics and calculation. And I mean, it also relates to human way of thinking, but maybe we don't want to go into that path. Very interesting discussion as well. But I think these mixture of experts, settings, they will be the way forward.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree. So I feel we're coming towards the end of our sort of session today, and I realise we've only covered 3 of your sort of 7 points, but I think we've covered 3 very important ones with lots of sort of depth. Product, people, and processes. So what I'll propose, Peter, is that maybe we do a separate follow-up session where we talk in depth about the other 4 and some of the sort of challenges and insights from your side, if that works for you. But maybe before we do that, maybe you could just sort of reveal what they are first. Don't leave us all in suspense, and then it gives us a little bit of a teaser for the next session.
Of course. Yeah, what is very interesting, of course, also from an IoT perspective, is production. So when you think about the production of your product, and the production can be different. I mean, it can be software, where you produce something. It can be marketing, a creative way of producing things. But obviously, I think very often as on the shop floor, as production, and how this will be looking in the future in 3 to 5 years. And one thing I do admit, I had to trick a little bit because the last P would be the customer, obviously, but then there's no P in customer. So I thought about it, and it's now the personalized customer journey, and really about personalization. That is the key going forward for customers. So we can talk about the personalized customer journey then as the last P. And I think take it all together. We talked about purpose. We talked about processes. Production is related but independent. We talked about partner and people, and personalized customer journey is the last.
Fantastic. Well, like I said, that's a pretty in-depth topic on its own, I'd say. A lot of different areas we can explore there. But no, for now, I think, we'll bring it to a close. But what we'll do is, so as usual, I think anyone who's listened to the previous episode, so Peter's very active on LinkedIn, so we'll include his link if you want to connect on LinkedIn, of course, and follow what he's doing and find out more about his journey in digital transformation. Unless there's anywhere else you'd point people to as well, Peter.
But that's currently really my main platform. I will start to do some more YouTube videos, but I post them also on LinkedIn. I have some keynotes coming up, and I'm going to be at SBS Drives, but I don't know when you publish the episode today. So connect me on LinkedIn, reach out. Very much looking forward to engagement here. And it's going to be an interesting ride and journey to kind of have this generative AI driving this transformation in the industry and beyond. Also, the whole organization will be impacted. And I think that is kind of the strength of the 7P approach, that you look at all aspects and don't focus only on the product or only on the production, for example.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We'll certainly discuss that in more depth in the next episode. I guess that's a good way. I don't know when this episode will be published, so it could be post SPS. So they might not hear that you're attending, Peter, but if not, LinkedIn is obviously the place. Connect on there, and there'll be certainly future episodes as well. We may even link some of the older episodes as well we've done before as well, so you can catch up on previous conversations we've had. But yeah, for now, thank you, Peter, again for your time and for your insights, and thank you everyone for listening. We'll see you on the next episode. Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Please like and subscribe on all major podcast channels and find out more about Senseye Predictive Maintenance at Siemens.com.